our reasons why we are doing these interviews is that we would like to increase the brand awareness of the amazing causes that we are acquainted with, and we would like to hear more about your work, about what's new and what you're up to. I know you've been moving recently, and you have a lot of new exciting news for us. So yeah, I would very much like to hear about what's going on in your professional life, and a little bit more about why you decided to work in the area of mental health awareness, and how you feel it's going these days, and what are your plans for the near future, and how we can help.
Amazing. Okay, well, let's put it this way. I often say that, what pushes us to become an activist, what makes us have the impulse of being in the world and being of service to the world. So what is that? And I've observed over time that it generally comes from a very personal story. We look at the news generally, we read content, we read this stuff, and it feels so impersonal until it becomes personal. And that's when you start reading the newspaper differently. That's when you start becoming aware of, one life is really one life. It's not just a number on a social post. It's not just, a number in anything. It's actually a person, and that person has a story. And I started working in mental well-being because it was very personal to me. My sister died by suicide 5 years ago now, and it still feels like yesterday. And the only reason I got involved in mental health was I'm not an expert. I never will be. I think the mystery of our minds and of trying to answer the question of who we are as a human beings is a very vast question. And yes, there might be experts from a medical perspective. There might be experts from a psychology perspective, psychiatry. But are we really experts of who we are? I really don't think so. I think the human species has a lot to learn from. And I think we can learn from each other. And the lack of learning from each other is what is caused conflict today. The lack of, being unable to speak to each other consciously, the lack of being able to listen to each other consciously with loving awareness. Consciously creates war. And what is war? Inner conflict. And when there's inner conflict, that is a lack of understanding of who you are. You don't feel safe within your mind, with yourself, with your thoughts. And now I experienced that firsthand with my sister, and we lost a very special soul on this planet. She was a singer-songwriter. Although music never dies, we still miss her bodily form. Her music is very much everywhere at the moment, and we're going to be releasing some of her studio recordings at some point this year again. The Family Foundation is taking care of that, and so it was very personal to me. But parallel to that, I've been studying consciousness, and when I say studying consciousness, for people who don't know what that means, it's basically the study of self-awareness. Like, where is the root of suffering? We sometimes wake up when we don't feel well, and then we're like, well, what do we do with it? Do you just continue your day and continue to unfeel, to feel well all day, or do you ask the question, where is that root? What is the root of my suffering? Now, if it's connected to an event, maybe that releases the distinction, releases the pain, the suffering, or the irritation. But often it's something that's deeper than that. It's some form of existential questioning, and we don't know what that is. And we don't know what our purpose is, and we don't know, what we're grateful for. And consciousness is truly like the science of self-awareness. How do we create more awareness about who we are beyond what we think we are? And a lot of ancient traditions have embraced that. And I have been lucky enough to have learnt a lot of things through incredible teachers from Tibetan refugees, masters, Rinpoches, Karmapa, His Holiness is my teacher. And I learned over the last 23 years, and they are still my teachers today. And I will never be an expert because there is no expertise to that. It's just a lifelong journey of the journey to self and the journey of freedom from suffering. And that is the journey that I'm on. So when you're on that journey, you're automatically start questioning. It's not just about you, it's also about the reflection of you. And the reflection of you happens in the community. It happens with the people that you interact with. It happens with your family. It happens with strangers in the street. It happens with the synchronicities and the synchrodestinies of who you meet. And that for me is something incredible because you learn through others. You learn through your reflection through others. And you start to understand that you are on a journey of oneness, that you cannot be without the other. You cannot exist without the other. And that also nourished, if you could call it, a very, I would say, primal humanitarian desire to make this world a better place, to make it safer, to make it, to contribute to general well-being, to contribute to conflict resolution, to conscious communication, to peace. And also nurturing to very basic humanitarian needs, water, food. And so I've constructed over time, I would say, the Americans here in America, they call it a career, but I would call it just, a lifelong love story and commitment to humanity. And I have been lucky to start a lot of initiatives around now it's mental health, but before that, and continuously, it's ending violence against women in developing nations, India, Nepal, certain parts of Africa, creating collaborations and understanding what is going on in the sex trafficking world and how can we prevent this and how can we, promote gender equality. And I started working with street kids. And there's a lot of things that I've done over the last 20 years that have been the result of the journey to self. Because once you start getting on that journey and you realize that we're all connected, there's nothing really else to do. You can try and, create an illusion that, oh yes, I have a career, I have a house, I have a family. That's all wonderful. I'm not saying that's not good. I'm not saying that's bad either. I'm just saying that just is. But once you have that, this part of you, and it's the deeper sense of you that wants to go beyond that conditioning. It wants to go beyond and find what is that freedom, the soul freedom that allows you to find out your higher purpose. And maybe some people's higher purpose is to be the nurturer of the family member because you're building community, and that is okay, but you can also go beyond that. What I'm trying to break down here is social conditioning. How can we break out of social conditioning? And also, when we break out of social conditioning and conditioning, you're born with a name, you're born with a certain culture, you're born with a certain religion. How can you break out of that without disrupting anything, but experiencing the sense of freedom? So a lot of my work is around that, and that bleeds into society, and it bleeds into the work that I do. It leads into my purpose. It's kind of all blended in together and there's no separation. So yes, do I have a career? Yes. Do I have a soul commitment? Yes. Do I have a motherhood? Yes. I have a 19-year-old. Yes. I have all of these things, but it's all in a visionary experience around how can we create a better place for the people that are living on this planet who are experiencing sometimes direct suffering and sometimes more indirect suffering and sometimes existential suffering. And I believe that is a solution that we may all want to contribute to. So voila, my dear.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Gabriella, for sharing that. And I very much understand because we hear a lot about how people around us are suffering. And my question is, what can we do as individuals or as employers, colleagues, maybe parents, siblings, when we see somebody's struggling or maybe people are not talking, but we see that they need help? What would you say is like the first aid kit of a person, how to help and how to offer the helping hand?
You know, I'm going to say something very simple, and I'm saying this firsthand because it's something that is so difficult to do, and it sounds so easy, but it's absolutely not. How can I become present the person who needs help?
Yeah, exactly.
What is that science of presence? When I'm present, anything is possible. Anything, because you have become the foundation, you become the ground for that person to walk on. Because all of a sudden, they feel heard, listened to. You might not have a practical solution to the material aspect of the problem, but what you're doing is you're offering a deeper listening that is connecting to the whole being of that person. And all of a sudden, that person does not feel isolated. You might not understand the why of that person, but it doesn't matter. Because why is the universe created? We still don't know that question, as science has been going on for, hundreds of years trying to answer that. So it's okay. But with the presence of being in the present moment. So I'm not saying, oh yeah, we have to be present in the present moment. No, I'm not saying that. It's presence of being. So there's 4 ways to tap into presence of being. First of all, and we like to break it down in 4 steps. And we also like to call it love in action. So you're creating loving action. I make it pretty simple. You bring your attention to that person. You're trying to get into your presence. You bring your attention to that person, or to that colleague, or to that thing, or to that whatever it is. If it's someone you're helping, like you asked me the question, you start looking at that person. You're bringing your full attention. You're noticing what they're wearing. You're noticing how the light touches their face. You're just noticing where that person is, what she's wearing. You're not critically assessing. You're just paying attention. All of a sudden, we brought your awareness to the attention. Then we go from attention to appreciation. Well, how can I appreciate this person more? In silence. You don't need to say anything. Remember, we're not doctors here. We're not experts in the field. We're just trying to be present with our loving presence. So how can I, appreciate this person? Maybe it's like exactly that light that is touching that person's face is just revealing some softness that I had never noticed before about this face, or some sadness. And you know what? I feel that. So you're or maybe this color suits this person, or maybe, wow, I never noticed how bright this person is in a room. I had always never seen her because I'd never bring my presence to this person, So we've gone from attention, we've gone to appreciation, then affection. What does affection look like? Maybe affection is actually saying something beautiful like, yes, this color suits you. You know what? Or maybe it's like, I realize I haven't paid enough attention to you. I'm here now. I'm here. Maybe that is a form of attention. Or maybe it's the affection is, just a warm hand on the shoulder. I'm here. Maybe you see, and you can be very creative with this. Of course, there's certain rules or regulations in the workplace but I'm giving you a little understanding. I'm giving you a toolkit here. So we've gone from attention to appreciation. We've kicked that in, as launched affection. And now, how do you create acceptance? Acceptance is kind of like the grounding and the foundation of any loving, caring relationship. When you accept that person as they are, without trying to change them, you have actually allowed the universe to expand. You have allowed that field of possibility to become something that you don't know it will, You've allowed the mystery to unfold. And that's where you get synchronicity, where the miraculous comes in, where healing comes in. So for presence of being, I'm going to kind of rephrase it. You tap into the love in action tools, which is the breakdown. You bring attention, you go to appreciation, that automatically arises affection, compassion, empathy, and then you go to acceptance. And acceptance, you're accepting that person, and then that person will automatically feel through resonance of being that they're safe and that they're able to get to the next stage of whatever they need to tell you or not tell you, but you're at least you know that you have been truthful in your being towards who they are.
Yeah, that's very, very beautiful, and very often it's I think easier to accept another person or somebody else than to accept ourselves and who we are, or who we really should be. And you said something very, very true, and I wrote it down. How can we find our higher purpose? And I keep asking that myself. So what would you advise there? What's the way? What are the tools to finding out what we're good at, and what's our way in life? Maybe our career path, or something that we were predestined to do in this lifetime here.
So I think, first of all, I think that's a great question. I'm a little old school.
I am as well. Yeah.
I'm a little old school. When you put in the work, the universe responds to you.
Yeah.
But if you just walk around like some headless zombie, and you want to be a biological robot, and you want to follow all the trends on TikTok, and you want to follow all of these crappy, mindless stories on social media that are all fake news, that is all just boring, that is all antagonizing your relationship to life and to yourself and to the world, and it's shaping a different vision, then I don't think you'll be able to find your purpose. I truly don't think you will. So I'm advising you, almost not to engage in the rat race. You can only find your purpose when you start to stop. Literally start to stop. And you start to become aware of your presence. Once you become aware of the presence, the infinite can happen in a millisecond. And an opportunity can come up that all of a sudden resonates with you and creates joy. We have a saying, Deepak and I share something that I have taken to a whole new personal level. When I say Deepak, I mean Dr. Deepak Chopra, who I work with, who is the co-founder of Never Alone. We've also written programs together for the Chopra Foundation. And he says something that is so accurate. Joy is the only measure of success.
Yeah.
So once you find something that is beyond happiness is the opposite of sadness. So there's obviously going to be an up and down there, but joy is equanimous. It's just always there. So once you start finding and actually presenting to yourself that joy is the only measure of success, then you will start to find your higher purpose. Where am I more joyful? Where am I experiencing this inner peace? Obviously we don't all have to be living in ashrams. I would love that, by the way, but I'm not doing it. But the point is that, what is that? What is that makes us, go beyond who we think we are? And I would advise you to meditate, even if it's 5-10 minutes. And in that meditation, you ask the 4 soul questions. Who am I? And you just repeat it in your mind. You sit down, you breathe in, you breathe out, and you repeat in your mind, not out loud. You repeat the question, who am I? Just a couple of times, and you're going to see what arises on your screen of consciousness. And sometimes it's going to be, oh, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a person. And then the more you ask the question, the more subtlety will start to arise, and you'll start to see, maybe after a couple of times, you will experience, you'll just see a being. You'll just experience love. You won't be a conditioned person anymore. And then, because when you ask the question, the answer will arise through situations, people, and experiences and circumstances. So that's where you get the answer. It's not like there's a right answer or wrong answer. There's something that is going to resonate with your soul purpose. So who am I? First soul question. Second soul question in meditation is, what do I want? Very important. Sometimes it can be the basic safety. I need a house. But once you go beyond that, what do I really want? So the same thing, you ask the question, what do I want? Third question, what is my purpose? So we might have all kinds of ideas, or we might have none. But you just allow the space to start bubbling with the answer until it comes to your consciousness through people, situations, circumstances, and synchronicities. And then the last the soul question is, what am I grateful for? And that is something very important, because when we open our hearts and our minds to gratitude, we actually start the energy of abundance. And abundance starts to flow because you're not holding on to it, you're actually giving it back. The gratitude allows your heart to open, and it allows the flow to continuously be and through you. So that's very important. And there you go. That's what I would recommend for that.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. And what would you say, Gabriella, is the most valuable achievement in your life, personally or professionally, what you're really, really proud of?
Well, firstly, I have to say it's my son. I've been raising my son as a single mother pretty early on. And although his father's always in his life, we've had, separated lives since he's 4 or 5. Now he's 19, and I'm very proud because I have given my son tools of self-awareness. He meditates. He contacts people when he needs help, which is very important for a teenager to do. He has no stigma in terms of talking about things. And I'm not saying he's perfect, because perfection is in the beholder's eye. But what I am very proud of is that he has really understood that he needs to ask for help, and that he is part of a higher purpose. And he doesn't know what that purpose is yet, but he's on the way. And he meditates and he prays and he does things by himself without me triggering him anymore. So I'm very proud of that. I am.
Yeah, and you said that, I love the sentence, that joy is the ultimate measure of success.
Yes.
Right? Is there anything else that you'd say, or how do we, in these days, we talked about the economy and a little bit about the finances and how difficult it is, especially for non-profit organizations these days. Is there any other measure of success that you'd say is important?
I think clear communication is something that's very important. Put your ego aside. Don't take things personally. It's just a story. Just don't take things personally. As soon as we start taking things personally, everything starts to become a problem. Oh, I'm so sensitive. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, this person did this. Oh, I feel like this. But that's how I feel. But no, that's how you feel. That's not reality.
Yeah. And it's really hard. And especially, for example, we talk about that in a team, and I worked in global teams, different cultures, different nationalities, different genders, different languages, and in the time of COVID especially, it really it's challenging, right? So how do we deal with that? How do we deal with our personalities, and how do we overcome the differences? What is your advice there?
My advice is to go beyond what we think we're hearing and to go into loving presence. And by the way, I get triggered too, but it's very rare now. It's very few and far between. unless I feel the pure sense of injustice, like really big sense of injustice,
Yeah.
I don't get triggered anymore because it's unnecessary. We all have a common goal. If the common goal is clear, we go for it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. I've been always told, think about why you started doing that. Always like when I get upset or when I get into trouble, I'm told, well, think about the first reason why you got into this job or, why you started this relationship. And it does help me. Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to. You have to. Otherwise, it becomes kind of like this strange, it just becomes a strange thing, It's can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. I can hear you well. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, otherwise we just become in a loop. And I don't want to be a loop for anything, anyone.
Yeah. And what is your biggest challenge that you have to overcome in your life, Gabriella, so far? For me, it's definitely been the COVID and a war with Ukraine next door, next to Slovakia, where I'm from and where I am at the moment. And we had a lot of refugees, and I never really had experience with working, living, and meeting refugees before that. So yeah, that's been very, very challenging for me. What about for you? What would you say has been the most difficult thing so far that you tackled?
God, there's so many things. I mean, because for me, it's all about, it's really about how I feel, and how that feeling overbears me or not. And I have a principle where I've noticed that I can only operate from peace. Like in my life, I can only operate from peace. So if I don't experience inner peace, everything in my life is kind of like rocky. And that's, some people can function, as rocky people. I cannot. It's not something I can. So I think the biggest challenge for me is to always maintain inner peace. And what does that look like? And what am I ready to sacrifice to do that? And I think some of my biggest challenges have been around my motherhood and the custody battle that I've had with my ex-husband. Of course, now it's not relevant anymore because my son is an adult. But it went on for years and years and years and years. And whilst I'm going out to do my humanitarian projects, whilst I'm going out to film, whilst I'm building things. And it was, a very lonely process because when your motherhood is kind of attacked, it's something that is beyond a title or a role. It's a very primordial sense of self. The mother needs to nurture a child. And so it goes into, ethics and all of that. And so that was very challenging for me because that made me think as well, look at that lens through different aspects of the world where maybe women's rights are not as protected or as in developing nations. To be honest, I think French law is crap for protecting women, and I say that openly here, and they need to work on it. And maybe one day I will challenge that. Right now, it's not on my priority list. I have a lot of other things to do for humanity. And there are a lot of women who are challenging that system. So I am encouraging them to do it. And they have my full-blown support. But, there's quite an illusion around how the woman is protected in, developed nations versus, developing nations. And it's questionable. We have a very good disguise in Europe, but, not a lot of women are protected in the way that we think they should be compared to India, Nepal, certain places of Africa, So I think that for me was and has been very challenging. because it starts, like I said, it started with a personal story, and then, you realize that other women are in the same situation who don't have the same means as you. And so what does that mean? That means that you want to help those other people because it's going to help you learn your suffering and to transcend it. And that's also how it works,
Yeah, can you see a difference between, like, you live in the USA and you've experienced from Europe and from the other countries? What's your view on that? How can we in maybe Europe and the US help? Or is the situation much better? Is it different? What's your experience?
What's my experience? Oh God, I mean, we could write a whole PhD on this.
Yeah, series of books.
Yeah, a series of books. It's very distorted, my dear. It's totally distorted. It's just disjointed. Everything is disjointed. There's no common narrative. Every country has their limitations and their problems and their perception on the problem. Look, we've just gone back to abortion, like is a forbidden thing in America, right? I mean, hello.
That's right. Yeah.
What about women who've been raped? Like, hello, can we just talk about this? Like, why are men making decisions about women? And it should be a choice, like, it's certain things. Sometimes you have to have an abortion because you're physically sick and your body cannot take it.
Yeah.
No, it's not about morals, religions. You see, that's conditioning. It goes back to what I was saying before. The conditioned mind has an idea of what should be right and wrong. Maybe we can go beyond the right or wrong. And maybe we can go and transcend the identity of what we think we are to actually who we truly are, which is a glorious being that is mysterious, that doesn't have a gender, that doesn't have a name, that doesn't have a religion, that doesn't have a social structure, that just is. If we become in our isness, our beingness, humans will start to be able to clearly communicate with each other. Because yes, there are primal needs. Of course, everyone wants to feel safe. Of course, everyone wants to feel at peace. But also beyond that, what happens? Humans are visionaries. Humans are innovators. Humans are extraordinary mysteries, that are walking around the planet just looking like biological robots. I mean, it's sad. And what's going on in Israel and Gaza is sad.
Yeah.
It's what's going on in Ukraine, Yemen. I mean, let's just face it. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we so unconscious to suffering? And I'm almost blaming that on how we tell the stories. How are we telling these stories? Why are we become so insensitive to the fact that thousands and thousands of children are dying, that thousands and thousands and millions of people have been displaced and don't have a home for years and years and years? Like, why are we insensitive to that? Why are we insensitive to war crimes such as, rape of children and women? Why are we insensitive to that? So maybe it's because of video games, maybe it's because of social media, maybe it's because of all of the above, and maybe it's because of none of the above. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know because we never had the experience. Like we have it over here, next door, and I'm asking, what can we do as teachers, maybe as people who work in NGOs, or how can we influence the educational system? How can we prevent this from happening in the future?
No, absolutely. Well, how can we prevent a more compassionate society?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's just start with compassion. Compassion is not an idea of the Dalai Lama. Yeah, he made it popular. Okay, and compassion doesn't belong to the hippies who are, LSD consumers. It's that's one of those cliches. That's nothing to do with that. Compassion is something that's such a beautiful. It's like a well that we have in our hearts that is beyond love, It's the translation of love, the unconditional love. It's that translation of love that is not personal anymore. We start to understand what another human being feels and is experiencing, so that you become the bridge as your person, so that person can stand up and walk across the bridge and experience healing. That's what compassion is.
Yes.
We all have that. We don't need to be a doctor to be compassionate. We don't need to be a savant. We don't need to be a religious leader. We don't need to be anything. We can just be who we are. And I think compassion is something that needs to be inspired and not taught. We need to have inspiring teachers, people who are not burnt out anymore because nobody's listening to them. We need to help the caretakers, to help teachers. We need to help them become who they were at the beginning of their careers, inspired, beacons of hope. There's a general burnout. People are depressed.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Yeah, it's true, and we have a lot of companies, for example, that are part of SociisGroup. And what would you say, Gabriella? How can companies help? What are some concrete, particular steps
concrete actions
and and what can leaders do? Influencers, people who have decision power, maybe to make a change. What can they do?
Allow everyone to have mental hygiene stops during the day.
Okay.
Bring in mental hygiene as a term. We have physical hygiene, we have dental hygiene. We have all of these things that we understand that if we don't do, our bodies will start decaying. Your mouth will start swelling. You will start to have gum disease. You will do all of these things if you don't take care. What about the mental hygiene? Maybe we can have a mental hygiene room that has, and we started doing that in a university in South India, where there would be a room where they'd have a little air diffuser of essential oil, silence. You can just sit there, take a pause, no technology, just sit there, you can meditate, you can just be, you can drink a tea. It's not like a kitchen, it's just a silent room that makes you feel good, that anchors you again. So that's the first step. And then the second step I would invite you all is to probably create a social impact idea and an idea into a manifestation, into a project. So where every one of the company has their role and can see what they're good at outside of the roles that they have with their family members, Maybe, they become project manager of helping co-create a school in Kenya, for example. I'm giving that example, but there could be so many others, or a local community movement class, and the company is actively involved in the local community, a movement class, like helping it out. And just people need to feel inspired. The only way people feel inspired is to see the results that they're giving. When you help another person, you're actually helping yourself. Now, it sounds selfish that way, but it's actually not. It's because we're all interconnected. We forget that we're all from the same species. We all have a heartbeat, and that heartbeat, when we die, stops beating, but it's a heart. So the heart needs compassion for its fuel. The heart needs to be able to give for its fuel. We put fuel in a car, we put gas in a car, but we don't put fuel in our hearts. It's a heartbeat. It must be beating from somewhere. Hello?
That's true.
It's beating from the heartbeat of humanity. It's all of these heartbeats together that are recharging ourselves, because we need to be connected with one another.
Yeah. And I know, and our bodies and our minds, they tell us. And if we don't listen, they give us warnings, and they start with a little warning. And if we don't listen to that one, there's another one, until we really, really listen. Yes. So
absolutely.
That's very true. And how do you recharge, Gabriella? You're involved in so many organizations and NGOs and really good causes. And what do you, and I bet it's your hobby, and your work is your hobby. What do you do outside of work when you're looking for motivation and inspiration and a bit of a recharge?
I go to my ashram in South India.
Yeah.
I go teach at university there, and I go to my ashram, and I pray and meditate, and I just sit listening to thousands of people singing, and I sit on the floor, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, well, that's on my to-do list. I have a short-term and mid-term and long-term to-do list, and going to an ashram is one of them. And what are your plans for Never Alone and other causes that you're working on? And can you reveal a little bit of what you're cooking in your kitchen these days?
Oh, that's sweet. With Never Alone, we're constantly building. So now we're looking at a new AI emotional chatbot, our Peewee 3.0. So we've done a second version. Now we're going to get to the third version, creating a platform and an alliance with conscious technology for all of the mental health organizations in the world. So that's a big goal for me, so that everyone can kind of place their mental hygiene tools and what they need, what works for them, and of course all of this open source. So that's a big thing for me. And then once I migrate from that, I think I'm going to be getting more involved in the narrative of how do we create conscious narratives, and building a production company, and it's all conscious content around mental health, spirituality, consciousness, humanitarian work, using the tools of entertainment, of course, which is film, animation, documentary. So that's something that's going to be very important as well.
Oh, that's very, very beautiful. And I know that you recently moved within the United States. And how's that?
Yes.
How's that going? Has it been a successful move, or?
Yes. I mean, I've only spent a couple of months now in New York, but definitely New York has a particular energy of moving forward. So I do love that energy. Yeah. I like being kind of bound to a spiral, and that's been nice. New York has a beautiful spiral energy that is supposedly moving you forward. So I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, I've never been to New York, but yeah, I heard for Europeans, New York is a place that everybody wants to visit, and we consider it a totally different place from the rest of the US.
Yes, that's true. So true.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who are listening to us and who are following SociisGroup and who are acquainted to us, who struggle with different mental health issues. Is there any kind of, I know it's really hard, but like a general kind of advice you would give to an individual who's maybe watching us and listening to us, who's struggling at the moment?
I would suggest that you, if you can find something you love, or it's not around your community, I would say look online and find an inspiring conversation of people who are doing good. Anyone who does good truly takes you out of your conditioning, takes you out of your body, and inspires you, And I think that is very important, to find people, mentors, or archetypes take you beyond. Like one of my mentors, I never met him, but one of my inspirations was Sir David Attenborough. He's a marine biologist.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And you know what? He's been in my awareness for, as long as I can remember, 30 years or so. My Amma, the Hugging Saint, is one of the most prolific, proficient humanitarians I've ever met in my life. And, I could never do as much as her, but I'm going to attempt to do as much as her. Not because there's a competition, because I feel that if she can do it, then why can't I do it? So that's important, because we can all do things, but we just have to do them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's very, very true. Well, Gabriella, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and I didn't even know how when an hour went by. Is there anything else that you would share with our audience before we wrap up, or any kind of advice that you'd like to leave us with?
And I think just be joyful. Just try and find the joy, and don't confuse joy with happiness. Happiness is the opposite of sadness, and it's always a peak and a low. But joy is something that is a gem that can always create warmth within you. And, I know days can be hard, and, our sensitivity, and, but just know that one can influence as well the mind. One can eat healthier foods. One can look at, moving the body. We're a process. We're not just a fixed thing. So emotions are supposed to come and go. They're supposed to be part of like the wave of the ocean. If we were trying to stop the waves of the ocean, it would be impossible. We cannot stop the mind from doing what it does, which is thinking and perceiving and assessing and creating thoughts and, creating stories. But what we can do is we can be the ocean. We can just be still in the midst of chaos. And I invite you to not create a tsunami in your life. I invite you to just be the ocean, and just observe the waves. If you start doing that, you'll start to dig the well and create the inner well where your joy will be found within you. And it might take a little time, or it might be instantaneous for some, but you have to start somewhere. That's one of the keys.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, thank you very much for all the inspirational thoughts. And I'm sure this is not the last time that we're talking. And we also have very interesting activities going on. And we are working on a charity song, which is called Let There Be Light. And I'm sure you've heard from Jeremy maybe about this, and would be very, very happy if you contributed to this meaningful cause with us, and helped us to share our narrative, and to help more people, and to increase the awareness of all the beautiful causes just like yours.
I love it. Well, thank you very much. And of course, anything to help everyone else.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Gabriella. So I wish you the best of luck, and may you arrive in your destination safely and happily. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you again. So enjoy New York.
Okay. Thank you so much. Take care. Lots of love, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, we will. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gabriella. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. Take care. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.